Hello, friends. Lately, we've been having a lot of chatter about Micron on our WhatsApp group. There was a comment by Farhan Bhai that most likely Micron will go down, and it certainly did. And then there are positive signs around Micron, and there's negative sides. We have seen all kind of comments. So I want to kind of put my thoughts around Micron in public, so you guys better understand where I am coming from and how I think about Micron, or for that matter, any other growth companies. First of all, growth companies are generally volatile. There's always going to be a reason. I'll share many reasons that I have seen on Twitter and elsewhere about Micron as to why people are bearish on it. And then I'll tell you how to think about this. I mean, that is exactly what we do in the coaching program, really think about it. But the problem with this is no matter what I say, that thinking process takes many years to develop because you can't buy stuff just because somebody else said so. Your mind has to agree with it. Now, do everybody do that? No. A lot of people buy stuff because somebody else is buying. So if you want to do that, then you want to really be careful with your position sizing, right? You don't want to go buy a lot. Like, for example, I could have a 25% position in Micron because I have conviction. And if I say, hey, look, I own 25% Micron in my portfolio, and you go copy me, and Micron goes down by, let's say, 30%, you will be like, oh my God, I must have made a mistake. But for me, it'd be like, okay, great. This is the time when I go from 25 to 50% because I have such a conviction in Micron. And that same rule applies for any other company out there. So main point you got to understand is if you're into growth stocks, you do need to choose a path. And path number one is you do your own digging. And you don't wait too long to do that digging. I mean, one of the problems I see, for example, people who are in my coaching program is because I emphasize so much on them arriving at their own conclusion that sometimes people can take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months to make that decision. And by that time, stock has gone up. Like, for example, there was a company that I purchased, I think around $30 a couple of months ago. And within a week or maybe 2 weeks, I think after the earnings, it went down to $20. I'm like, hey, it's a great buy at 20 because I bought it at 30. Now it's available for 20, so I'm going to buy more. And then it went to 30, then it went to 40, then went to 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. Just in, I think, maybe no more than 2-3 months. I don't remember the exact date. But it just happened so fast. So you never really know. So if somebody, kept thinking, waiting, or maybe it will go down more. I don't know when the stock going to go down, a lot more. Nobody really knows, So what the best thing that I know is just buy the dip. If stock goes down, you buy a little bit more. But the only way you can do that is if you don't own too much of it. If you own too much of it and it goes down, that kills your conviction because it's really very hard to come up from it psychologically. So if you're buying it based on somebody else buying, then you want to really keep that position sizing low. But if you're buying it based on your own conviction that you believe why this would work out, then you'll see it as an opportunity and you will acquire more stocks. Okay. So today I'm going to share my thesis on Micron. I'm going to break it down, give it to you both ways, positive and negative. So that can help you. I own Micron, just for clarification, for a long time now. I think maybe 2 years. I wouldn't want to say, I think my initial purchase was somewhere around $100. Last time I checked, I think it's trading, 500? Most likely it's going to hit well over 600 before the earnings. Now, I don't know if it will hit 600. I'm just saying that's what it has done in the past. It starts to run up to the earnings state. And then if there's any kind of consolidation happens, usually happens around that time. And you can already see what kind of ER we are getting from Intel. What did we hear from, other hyperscalers out there? And we're going to hear from Google, Meta, and all the other companies as well. And I think most likely they're going to say the same thing, that they're going to spend more money, and then AMD earnings, I'm sure they're going to come out really great. So we're getting nothing but positive news around this. So I think by the time earnings come out, I think Micron going to blow the numbers and they're going to be even bigger and better and all that kind of good stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it stock hits $650, $700 by the earnings time. Okay, does it have to do that? No. And I'll share a lot of reasons why it might not do that. So I'll talk about all of that stuff today. Okay, those of you guys who don't know me, My name is Deepak. I run a tax firm called Tax Code Advisor. So I'm not an investment firm. I don't sell you stocks, hedge funds. I don't want you to buy into any syndicate I have, or for that matter, anything else. If you need help with taxes, if you are not working with somebody who personally cares for you, that means you file your tax form and they pass it on to their employees, and you never really get to talk to the tax professional, then most likely you're probably missing out on something. So if you are one of those and you're looking for, now, again, if you are one of those who need that personalized care, then I'm your guy. If you don't need that personalized care, I'm not your guy. So, then you can continue to be doing business with whoever you are doing business with. So if you are paying high in taxes, you need a little bit more care, maybe you have a side hustle, maybe some business, maybe you own multiple properties, then I'm your guy. I do have an event coming up in May, on May 16th. So that's going to be in Austin, Texas, in downtown Round Rock area. So I have taken a beautiful venue there, and we will have breakfast, we'll have lunch. It's not going to be like Wealth Summit. It's not like a 12-hour event, because I'm still testing out the market, see what kind of people are, what kind of interest they have, what do they like, what they don't like. So I'm still trying to figure all that out. So it's going to be half-day event, 6 hours, and then we'll go from there. So I'll talk about taxes, I'll talk about finance. Hey, I'll talk about all of these good things that I share with you guys on WhatsApp and here as well. So if you guys are in Austin market, you know somebody in Austin market, you have a friend, family member in Austin market, my humble request, tell them to go to taxcodeadvisors.com and sign up for that event. I think that's the best gift you can give them. And no matter whether I'm doing webinar, seminar, meetups, I open it all up. I don't really hold back. Even in these videos, I share everything with you. So that is what's happening. But again, don't confuse me as an investment advisor. I'm not investment advisor. I'm not here to sell you insurance, although I am, licensed insurance, but I don't sell insurance. My primary business is tax planning. That's what I do for a living. All right, so let's talk about Micron. Let me start out with negative first, and then I'll talk about positives. Okay. So one of the common argument that I hear from people is that memory has historically been one of the most cyclical industries in tech. That means, when there's the growth in semiconductors, industrials, when they're built out, there's a lot of demand for memory. And then obviously it's not like you build out all the time, right? Once the build out happens of something, then there is a period of absorption. So that could last 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then kind of market comes down and then the market goes up. So very simple argument for people who think that way is when the oversupply hit, prices are going to collapse. It happened back in 2022, 2023. And at that time, we saw the stock drop by 50%. So, just keep that in mind. And only thing I want to add there is nobody really knows timing of these cycles. Sometimes the cycles are short, sometimes cycles are long. So you don't really know. So I can't really invest based on that angle here. Second reason that people give about Micron is a concentration risk. Obviously, people like you and me are not the ones building data centers. Who is building data center? Amazon, Google, Microsoft. So somebody might say, well, if these companies start running into cash flow problems, if these companies are raising a lot of debt, they're not able to pay for that debt, and interest rates keep rising, recession hit, things of that nature, then how is Micron going to make money? Because their revenue is dependent on these other companies. Hey, fair enough, right? If these companies are not making money, they're not able to generate revenue, how are they going to pay for their expenses? Okay, so I'm good. Now, all of those companies don't have to go bankrupt or run into trouble, but even if one of those, if Amazon, Google, or any other hyperscaler gets into some sort of financial trouble, can it impact Micron? Absolutely. So if you invest in Micron, keep an eye out on that. That is certainly a risk. Third one that I hear from people is AI efficiency. So for example, we saw what Google did earlier, right? There was a report. The funny thing is that report was not even new. That report was old. But the report was marketed in such a way, or somehow it got traction, or what I think these days people call it went viral, and people start believing that, all of a sudden there will be no need of memory because AI will become more efficient. So, and we kind of saw that what happened with NVIDIA, if you guys remember last year with that DeepSeek kind of moment. So that what happens as well. Then there is a geopolitical risk. For example, advanced chip exports controls, China tensions, then we have Taiwan Strait. So all of these issues can certainly create problem as well. And then lastly, one of the maybe, I want to almost say it's a stupid reason, but it is a reason. Okay. And that reason is that why should I buy a stock when it's already all-time high? Right? Why would I want to buy something at 500? Shouldn't I want to buy it at 300 or 250 or whatever? The problem is this, guys. It's easier to buy stocks when they're going up than it is when they're going down. So, question you want to ask is: we've been talking about Micron for a while now on our WhatsApp channel as well as on Discord group. And matter of fact, on Discord we talked about it many times. Why didn't you buy it? So don't blame yourself. And I'll tell you the reason for that. The reason is when market goes down, your brain keeps telling you that it may go down more. And that's the reason why you don't buy it. And it's not just you. Everybody will tell you the same thing. You go on CNBC, we are going to crash, this going to happen, that going to happen. You go on Twitter, you go on YouTube, even the analysts all of a sudden start talking negative about, like, you will see the ratings start to drop. Oh no, I don't think it's going to hit 500. It's going to hit 300, 200, whatever, all kind of numbers. So that's what happens. I'm just saying, look, if you can have a discipline to buy the dip, then yes, take the money, put it in a bank account, wait when the dip happens, and then jump in and buy. If you can have that mindset. But problem happens is because it's not just the Micron, everything else will also go down as well. And when everything else is going down, it's very difficult to buy the stock. And another last reason that I hear for people who are bearish on Micron is the fact that AI is becoming expensive by the day. And if things are continuing to become more expensive, then obviously demand comes down, right? A standard supply demand curve, that if you increase the price so much that the demand is decreasing. But the reason why Nvidia is able to sell chips for so much, or AMD, or in matter of fact now Intel, like I talked about it on WhatsApp the other day, right? Intel is selling now their CPUs that were already wrote off. Like they thought that they're not going to be able to sell. They're selling them at full price. Okay. There's so much demand for that. The reality is we are at the very beginning of AI cycle. Again, it's going to be volatile cycle. Sometimes people are going to talk about debt. Sometimes people are going to talk about interest rate, recession, Apex. There are going to be all kind of conversations that will happen along the way. But how many people are really implementing AI just right now? Not that many. In matter of fact, I talk to small businesses when I'm doing consulting, and I say, hey, look, you can improve here if we just think about it this way. People aren't ready for it. Okay. One of the reasons for that is because AI is expensive to implement right now. If I go into a company, like a small business, say, let's implement that. They're like, no, it's cheaper for an employee to do it. That's one of the reasons out there. But the reality is that right now, all this demand is coming from big businesses. So once that demand kind of catches up, then it will start to flow over to the small businesses. So we'll see how that goes. But those are some of the reasons why people are bearish on Micron. So I have shared them with you. If you have any other reason, you think of other reason, then let me know. Like I said, I didn't really get into so much geopolitical situations such as, a lack of helium or some other supply constraint, simply because of the fact that the margin of the company is 81%. So when you have a company that has 81% margin, if some cost goes up by 5%, 10%, what kind of impact can it really have on stock? Anyhow, let's talk about some of the positives that I see in Micron right now. So number one thing to remember is that last earning from Micron was on March 18th. Next earning is on June 22nd, and I'm recording it's April 26th. So you got entire May. So what I saw last time is roughly around 30 days before. That's when traders starts to kind of jump into the stock, and they kind of keep going up from there. So I think right now Micron is still kind of attracting people who have long-term thesis, but I would say maybe somewhere around next month, and I think a lot of people are kind of holding off because of this war with Iran and all that. But let's just say if that thing gets resolved, then I would expect a lot of traders start jumping in and start pushing the stock higher. So we'll see how that goes. At least that's what happened in the last earnings. And we already know Micron have given great numbers. I think last quarter they gave us 200% year-over-year growth. So revenue was really good. I think for Q3, they guided $33 billion. So can you think about it? Just to give you a reference, in Q2, revenue was $23 billion. In Q3, $33 billion. So you can see how much demand is out there. Earnings per share estimate is roughly about $19. My guess they will come around $20. So if you do $20 earning per share and you multiply by 4, let's assume they don't really grow anymore. They just stick at that point. So 20, 40, 60, 80. That's $80 per share, guys. For a company that is growing, I don't even really know what they're going to grow at, but certainly seems like they're growing at almost 100% per year. They might be 200, 300% by the year end. We don't know. So kind of keep that in mind. So why I'm telling you this? I'm telling you this because if they're generating $80 and they do that, let's say, next year as well. So that is $160. And if they double that based on the growth trajectory, they will have earning per share of almost, let's say, maybe $200, $300 in next year or two. You add all those earnings for this year, next year, the year after, like within 3 years, they can buy back their entire company. The stock is trading as 500, right? So they can buy back the entire company. That means 3 years down the road, even if, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, memory prices do come down, because they would have already bought back so many shares by then, the earning per share probably will be just about the same because the number of shares would have come down by that time. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind about Micron. The second thing is Micron is dealing with CHIPS Act. They got a lot of money from the feds to build the factory in the United States. And when you do that, it restricts you from buying back your stock. So Micron is actually not doing any buyback of stocks right now. So the growth you're seeing in the stock price is all organic in nature. But that clause will expire, if I'm not wrong, by the end of 2026. That means in 2027, company can actually start doing buybacks. So that would be a major tailwind for Micron as well. Now let's talk about the demand side. The entire next year supply of Micron is completely sold out. Think about that for a second. Digest that. For 2027, so people who are talking about there could be this problem, that problem, yeah, because people really react to headlines. Can stock go down? Sure, because people are going to react to the headline. But the reality is, it would have absolutely no impact on financials because Micron is completely sold out. So whatever that headline is, it will be very short-lived. And when the earnings report comes out, the stock will go back up, just kind of like what we saw. I mean, the stock went down, this war, blah, blah, blah. The stock went down from $450 to $300. And a month later, you can see it's even more than, you could have bought it at $450 and still made money. Can you imagine you bought it at $450, stock went down to $300. Okay. A month later, the stock is at $500. Okay. So keep that in mind as well, that it's completely sold out. So that should not have any impact. Then let's talk about AI for a second. So Amazon 5 gigawatt data center is now fully committed. That is $50 billion in build. That is a direct demand for Micron. Every AI data center requires high bandwidth memory, HBM, and NAND, NAND, flash memory. Those of you guys who are not into technical, neither am I, but I learned this from clients as well. Micron makes both of those. Only 3 companies in the world manufacture this. We got Micron, we got Cynix, and we got Samsung. So those are the only 3 companies. And by the way, you can buy DRAM ETF that has exposure to all 3. I don't own it. I only own Micron, because you want to limit your exposure to a particular field. My thesis could be completely wrong, and I don't want to lose a lot of money. So I would rather be diversified in a lot of different things. Micron is growing HBM market share away from Samsung and Cynix for quite some time. And I expect them to do it more because they are building more and more factories. And then take a look at valuation. Valuation for Micron is so cheap. And like I said, I think it's one of those areas where people are scared that, what if this AI trade doesn't really work out? That's what really people are really scared of. But how much scared people really can be? The Micron forward P, even today at $500, Okay. Forward P is, I think, roughly around 5. What else can you buy that is growing at 100% and, have a forward PE of 5? That means if you if you think about it, like, what would be a fair price to pay? And again, I always ask this question to people because the fair price for different people is different. Some people think, PE of 8, 10, 15, 20, 24, whatever. I'll let that be your choice. But what else can you really buy in the market that is growing so fast, that has such a great cash profit, and that has such a good tailwind? I mean, if you are bullish on NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, if you're bullish on data centers, if you think CrowdWeave is continuing to grow, if you think Nibia is going to continue to grow, if you think Irene, Cypher, all a bunch of other data companies out there are going to continue to grow, then why would you be bearish on Micron? Every single one of them is going to use memory. Okay. Cloud memory revenue for Micron is up 160% year over year. And guess what? So many data centers are under construction. They're not even built yet. Take a look at Galaxy alone, Galaxy Digital. They're building one of the biggest data centers right here. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be even halfway operational till next year. So it kind of gives you an idea. Now, if you listen to the Micron CEO, he specifically said that we expect significant records again in Q3. So my guess is by the time June hits, this stock is going to show a major, major move. So I'm well positioned for it. And I'm sharing this with you guys. Now, once again, you have to be careful. If don't go buy it because I'm saying so, because otherwise, there are always traders, there are always news, there's always headlines, stock gonna sell off, but it may not happen. For example, maybe 2 days later, Trump announces that, hey, this Iran issue is resolved now. I don't expect it to happen. I'm just saying it can happen. Or we might hear something with Micron that might be a super positive news, or from NVIDIA or AMD or something like that. So all of these can happen. My thought process is this, guys, at the end of the day. If we get a bundle of positive news, maybe 2-3 news from, let's say, from AMD, NVIDIA, and this Iran war gets resolved, what I would expect to see is that Micron all of a sudden goes from 5 PE to 10 PE. What that means is the stock can go from $500 to $1,000 in a matter of weeks and still be undervalued. Because what other hyperscaler is trading at 10 PE? Think about that for a second. It can happen. Does it have to happen? No. It can slowly go up because people are cautious. People are not chasing it. See, a lot of people in the market buy stuff based on price action. So they jump onto the ship once the ship is taking off. And that's what's happening with Micron, because the speed is just not there, at least compared to Cynics or Samsung. Korean people are different. So they are doing it. By the way, talk about Korea. Korea is one market that is perhaps impacted the most from Strait of Hormuz. So once Strait of Hormuz issue is resolved, I would expect that market to actually boom as well. And when that happens, that's going to be a lot of tailwind for Micron as well, because Samsung, Cynics, these people get a big time boost from that market. So those are my thoughts on Micron. If you want to debate it, if you agree, disagree, leave it in the comments, leave it in the WhatsApp group. And if you're anywhere in Texas, then please come see me at the summit on May 16th. Absolutely free event. There will be free parking, breakfast, lunch, and depending upon what audience want. If you guys want me to talk more about taxes, I can certainly do that whole day long. But I think a lot of people are telling me that, hey, they want to hear more about company. They want to hear more about finance. So maybe I'll spend more time on that as well, showing you guys where the opportunities are and how do I think about those things. So if you have a question, then don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to get hold of me, just go to taxcodeadvisors.com and then just shoot me a message from there. All right, guys, thank you so much. And maybe next time, I want to talk to you guys about Rivian. So Rivian is an interesting company as well. I don't own a whole lot of it. Actually, I did own it, but then I sold it when there was some issues with Rivian. But I think the new Rivian truck is about to come out, which is supposed to be, I think, $35,000. It's a SUV. So I need to look a little bit more into it. Maybe I want to increase my position in Rivian. I don't own a whole lot of it right now, but I think it's still fairly priced, because if that product becomes a major hit, that can give a big boost to the company. So maybe I'll talk about it next time. So something that you want to keep an eye out on. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.